In this video, I will go over a hypothesis test for standard deviation. The example says, a simple random sample of 35 filtered 100 millimeter cigarettes is obtained and the tar content of each is measured. The sample has a standard deviation of 4.0 milligrams. Use a significance level of 0.05 to test the claim that the tar content of filtered 100 millimeter cigarettes has a standard deviation different from 3.2 milligrams, which is the standard deviation for unfiltered king-size cigarettes. Following the same steps as what we have used in other hypothesis tests, first we need to meet the hypothesis test requirements. We're dealing with standard deviation, so we need a simple random sample or a randomized experiment. These cigarettes were randomized and not all obtained from the same pack of cigarettes. We also need to assume that the population of cigarettes is normally distributed. Now we state the claim. The claim is that the tar content of filtered cigarettes length 100 millimeter have a standard deviation different from 3.2 milligrams. Being different means that it could be less than or greater than. So under my alternative hypothesis, I'm going to use a not equal to. I also use the sigma form because this is the population standard deviation. The significance level, or alpha, is 0.05 as stated in the problem. The challenging part of conducting a hypothesis test with StatCrunch is that the hypothesis test in StatCrunch has to do with the variance and not the standard deviation. Here we have a sample that has a standard deviation of 4.0 milligrams. Under step 5, I have the note, StatCrunch uses variance instead of standard deviation, so the standard deviation values must be squared and entered into StatCrunch. This is true for both the sample standard deviation, we need the sample variance, and the population, we need its variance. The sample standard deviation was 4. I square that to get 16, which is the sample variance. The population variance was 3.2. I square that and get 10.24. Next, I go to StatCrunch. I go Stat, Variance Stats, one sample with summary. The sample variance was 16, the sample size 35. And here we can go, oh, here's a little reminder, this sigma squared is variance. So I need to type in the population's variance. Population's variance was 10.24. Our alternative hypothesis was a not equal to. We hit compute. I have a p-value of 0.0389. Having a p-value of 0.0389 and comparing that to our alpha value leads us to the statement that we are going to reject the null hypothesis as our p-value of 0.0389 is less than the significance level of 0.05. I have come to the formal statement below by utilizing the flowchart from prior lessons. The formal statement is the sample data support the claim that the tar contents standard deviation of filtered cigarettes length 100 millimeters has a standard deviation different than 3.2 milligrams. To restate this with non-technical terms, we could say the amount of tar in filtered cigarettes length 100 millimeters has a standard deviation different than that of unfiltered king-size cigarettes.